Every city has laws. Some cities have two. No badge, no title, just territory, drawn in silence, enforced in fear. This is the architecture of fear, and it always collapses from within. Stay close, son. No textbook dared print this.
Son, in 1981, a baker in Palermo missed the payment. Just one. Two men visited. No weapons shown, no voices raised. The message needed none of that. This system had a name, Il Pizzo. The tax no government ever legislated, but every merchant paid. No map showed these borders, no sign marked this land, but every soul on that street knew exactly who owned it. Cosa Nostra didn't conquer cities with armies, son. It conquered them with architecture, invisible, ruthless, and perfectly hierarchical. Where the state was absent or bought, the mafia stepped in, not as criminals, as the only available order.
The Pizzo wasn't robbery, son. It was rent. You existed in their territory. You paid to keep existing. Those who refused didn't receive a warning. They received the warning's result. The message was architectural. Behind every territory sat a consigliere, the cold mind that drew the lines, not the fist, the map. Territory wasn't only streets, son. It was city halls, police precincts, every institution the state pretended to control. The population didn't love this order, son. They endured it, because in the absence of the state, silence was survival.
Omertà wasn't loyalty, son. It was mathematics. Talk, and the cost fell entirely on you. When territory changed hands, it never happened in silence. Every border renegotiation left a mark on the street. Every perfect system carries its own collapse inside it, son. The Mafia's territory was no different. But how does a man build this kind of invisible empire, block by block, family by family? That answer, son, is next.
Territory began at the table, son. One man, one decision, an entire district reassigned in silence. The soldado didn't need a uniform, son. His presence on that corner was the uniform. Every Friday, every merchant, every block, the collection route ran like clockwork because fear is the most reliable calendar. The consigliere never collected, son. He designed. Every street below him was a line on his invisible map. Where the state abandoned its people, the mafia arrived with food, work, and favors. Loyalty, son, has many currencies.
The second layer of territory was never the street, son. It was the office above the street. But here's what no Don ever planned for, son. One man who refused to be part of the architecture. Giovanni Falcone didn't fight the mafia with force, son. He read their architecture, and the architecture confessed everything. Every territory had a ledger, son. Every Pizzo collection recorded. They built an empire, then documented it line by line. Still here, son? Subscribe. The family doesn't wait for the undecided.
Tommaso Buscetta knew every border, son, every family, every don. He was the living map of Cosa Nostra's territory. By 1981, Buscetta watched his world collapse. The Second Mafia War had consumed the territory he once memorized. Friends, brothers, gone. In 1984, Buscetta sat across from Falcone and did what no made man had ever done before. He described the entire architecture, every territory, every family, every line on the invisible map. What Buscetta revealed wasn't just names, son. It was the operating system of territorial control, exposed for the first time in full. But before the map could be fully dismantled, son, the territory struck back, hard, precise, and it aimed directly at the men who dared to read it.
In May 1982, the Italian state sent its most dangerous man to Palermo. General Dalla Chiesa had dismantled terrorists. Now he was reading the territory's map.
The commission convened. Totò Riina, the Cosa Nostra's boss, argued the general was an existential threat to the territory. The vote, son, was unanimous. September 3rd, 1982, via Isidoro Carini, Dalla Chiesa and his wife, gone. The territory had answered the state's challenge with absolute clarity. But the mafia miscalculated, son. Killing Dalla Chiesa didn't silence the state, it woke it up. The Rognoni La Torre law passed within weeks. For the first time, belonging to the mafia was itself a crime. The territory had a legal enemy now.
1986, the Maxi Trial. Falcone placed 475 members of Cosa Nostra in the same room and used their own ledgers to dismantle them. Block by block, son, the invisible borders began to dissolve, not because the mafia surrendered, but because its architecture had been read. But here's what no court ever planned for, son. When you remove the only order a street has ever known, what fills the silence? Riina spent 23 years as a ghost, son. No address, no phone, no trail, running the entire territory from anonymous rooms. January 15, 1993, Riina was arrested on a Palermo street. 23 years invisible, caught by a man who had been watching the architecture, not the man. His arrest didn't destroy the territory, son. It revealed something far more dangerous. The territory didn't need him anymore. While Cosa Nostra bled in courtrooms, son, the 'Ndrangheta moved silently into northern Italy's financial arteries. A new territory, no violence required. Because the real lesson of territorial control, son, was never about the man at the top. It was always about what happens when the top disappears and who was already waiting in the vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum, son, and so does a street. When Cosa Nostra retreated, Naples filled the silence with a new generation. The new generation had no patience for rituals, son. No tuxedos, no Omertà ceremonies. Same territory, completely different architecture. The 'Ndrangheta survived because it never separated business from blood, son. The territory was the family was the territory. Every empire built on fear, son, carries its expiration date inside the foundation, not because the enemy destroys it, but because fear is not loyalty. By 2019, Europol confirmed Mafia territorial presence in every EU country, son. The architecture never collapsed, it internationalized. The 'Ndrangheta alone generates over 50 billion euros annually, son. More than McDonald's and Deutsche Bank combined. Territory without borders. The streets look different now, son. Cleaner, more prosperous. But the territory is patient. It always was. It simply learned to wear a better suit. I watched all of this, son. The rise, the architecture, the collapse. And the real lesson was never the territory. It was the men who believed they were the territory.
If this reached you, you already know you're not part of the crowd. Subscribe to the family. Drop in the comments, "The territory outlives the man," if you truly understood what was said here today. And ask yourself this, son. If the state had never been absent, would the mafia have ever found a single door to walk through? Like, hype the video, activate notifications, because what comes next goes even deeper. Next, code breakers, the mafia system of punishment and justice, the rules no one was supposed to survive breaking. Until next time, honor the code, son. Omertà.